Welcome to another episode of the Pursuit of Progress podcast. Today we're doing something a little different. Have you ever caught yourself thinking, if I could go back in time and have a conversation with my 20-year-old self, these are the lessons I'd pass on? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today. Whether you're 20 or 60, these lessons still have the power to change your life. So let's get into the first part of this two-part series as we break down the 15 things I wish I knew when I was in my 20s. Let's jump right in.
All right, welcome back to another episode of The Pursuit of Progress, everybody. Excited to be here as always. My name is Adam, here with my co-host Ben, and I think this is going to be a fun episode today. As Ben mentioned, it's going to be a two-part series. We've got a total of 15 life lessons that we put together that are just things that we've thought about in our 30s and 40s that we think would be very important and valuable to share with our younger selves. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. Ben, I'd like to just hear and by the way, this isn't in any particular order, but Ben, I would love just to hear a little bit more about what your first lesson would be if you were speaking to a 20-year-old Benjamin Adams.
Yeah, the first lesson or the first piece of advice that I would give my 20-year-old self is to let go of alcohol. When I was in high school, I never drank. I developed some drinking and partying habits when I was in my 20s at college. And, looking back, I can see how much of a disruption that was to my life. Not only did I spend a lot of money on that, but there was just the behavior that I was putting myself in and how I was behaving and the wasted time, the partying, drinking, and then all of a sudden it becomes a habit. You're having a drink or two, a couple nights a week. You're watching football on Saturday or Sunday, and all of a sudden you're just wasting hour after hour after hour, day after day, month after month. So my advice to myself would be to let go of this habit because it's not good for my health. It's not good for my wealth, and it's not going to allow me to step into the person that I'm called to be. With this.
Very well said. And obviously everybody has their own opinions on, alcohol in Colorado, marijuana, just other vices. It doesn't even necessarily have to be a substance specific to like alcohol or marijuana. It could also just be other things. But I think that you made a really strong point just with, if you take a step back and really analyze, is it really serving you? Mm-hmm. I've kind of gotten to that point with myself. I've never completely given it up cold turkey forever. I just feel like now that I don't drink as often, when I do, I just definitely kind of feel it more and just am even less productive. And so I definitely agree with you that, if you're really in a point in life where you want to, make a lot more progress than maybe your peers are doing in their lives, especially at 20 years old, this is just one of those easy ways to really have a competitive advantage over anybody else.
Yeah, I agree with that. A lot of times to level up, I think we focus on actions and habits that we have to take and things that we have to do better and implement and start. But the reality is first we have to identify what areas we need to let go of in our life. And so for me, this is just my personal opinion. But again, this was holding me back from the person that I was called to be. And by letting go of it, I now am more in control of my time, of my energy. I'm more focused. I have more clarity in my life. I think a lot of times, at least again, for me in my case, when you drink, when you're a drinker, or if you are someone that enjoys that, a lot of times that means that you're masking something. Maybe you have anxiety from going to social events, or you don't have the confidence to go talk to that girl or that guy to make that cold approach. Maybe you don't want to go dancing or whatever the case is. So when you're using alcohol to mask whatever the real issue is, you're not allowing yourself to actually grow. And by removing that in time, when you allow yourself to have those experiences and grow from them, you will be more confident. You will turn into a better communicator. You will learn how to be more social, and your life will ultimately be more fulfilling. That's my advice to my 20-year-old self.
Love it, man. Well, I'll share the second one here. So number 2 is to just have a financial vision. Creating a financial plan just really helps give purpose to every dollar that you spend, but also it increases the likelihood of achieving that long-term financial goal that you have. So, Ben, I'd love just to get your take on this one.
Yeah, kind of again, my 20-year-old self, when you're 20 compared to when you're 40, you're focused on very different things. And when you're 20, you don't understand that today's dollars really are tomorrow's millions. And when you have a financial plan, and it doesn't necessarily need to be, a thought out, budgeted, outlined financial plan at that age, although, I do recommend that if someone is ready for that. But if you have a vision, and what I mean by that is if you have a big picture vision of things that you want to accomplish with your life and with your finances, that's going to give so much more purpose to your dollars and how you spend the money that you have. And it gives you're going to think about what you spend before you spend on it and ask yourself, does this align with my vision? And then the things that you ultimately do decide to spend on, they're higher value items because you actually value them more. So by having that approach, you can place more value on the things that you spend on while have a higher level of thinking on your vision.
The only thing I'll add to that is just the topic we've had a few different episodes be a kind of a focal point is compounding interest.
Mm-hmm.
And something that at 40, I kind of finally understood the value of that, and just wish I would have learned that at a younger age. And just being able to put away even just $100 a month, fast forward 20 years,
Yeah.
you're going to see some significant impact from that compounding effect. So
I know.
being able, again, just to have that competitive advantage over other people when you're all at that young 20-year-old age range, just you
Mhm.
really can get yourself so much further ahead than almost anybody else just by doing a few little things that nobody else even has on their radar at that age.
That's absolutely right. And maybe you're someone that doesn't have a financial vision or you don't know what you want to accomplish. But the point that you just made, who can't do $100 a month? But here's the thing, when you do $100 a month consistently, month over month, decade after decade, you're not just talking about thousands of dollars, you're talking about millions of dollars because of compound interest.
Let's jump into number 3. I think this is actually one of my favorites that you had put down for this first of two-part episode or
Mhm.
two-part series. So finding performance-based work, jobs that reward results. These are the ones that really allow you to earn in proportion to your effort and skill rather than just the time worked.
Yeah.
And I'll just say a couple things before passing this one over to you. I think with this one, I've had a lot of firsthand experience just being an entrepreneur and just always being kind of responsible for making a dollar. And there's a lot of times where you might make less if you break it down per hour of how much time you spend on something. But now, fast forward 15, 20 years, by having performance-based employment, performance-based jobs for a long period of time, you really
Mhm.
build up a lot of other skill sets that you really are never going to get through a traditional clock in, clock out type job.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't want to say that for everybody, but for the majority, I think, there's always going to be this dip in motivation and productivity when you're just being paid to be a warm body somewhere. Obviously, you have the skills and you're doing a good job with whatever you're doing. But when you're totally self-reliant and have something that's paying you totally based off of your performance, it just changes how you act, how you think about things. And I think it just takes you to a different level. Even if you are, again, in a corporate type job, down in the future, you might turn into an entrepreneur and you're going to have those other skills at that point ready to go.
Mhm. Yeah, the conversations that I would have when in my 20s with my friends and coworkers, we would talk about our hourly rate. We would talk about how many hours a week we were working, what we were getting paid for overtime. Those are the types of conversations that we were having. But when you have performance-based work, where you're getting compensated based off of your value, your skill, and your effort, it totally changes your mindset because you are incentivized to grow your skills and bring more value because it will directly impact your ability to get paid more. And so that's been one of the biggest blessings transitioning from that salary or hourly rate role into a performance based role that I'm in now is that it has given me the opportunity to grow so much as a professional that I don't feel that I otherwise would have gotten. And this isn't for everyone, but if you want to really take control of your time and your money, and I've always said that there's going to be a ceiling with other roles depending on how you're paid and how you're compensated. But when you're in these roles where you get paid based off of your performance, there is no ceiling. And you can always brainstorm and how like the only ceiling that you have is how big can you dream and how big can you believe. That's empowering.
I'm bummed that I really just kind of reconnected with you just after you did that transition from your 9 to 5 job and kind of went full commission, full sales. It just would have been kind of fun for me to kind of have seen you at that period of time right before, because I know just from the last, or maybe this first few years of you taking on that total performance-based role, just seeing how quickly that really did start to snowball into bigger and better. And every year doing, higher numbers, and just, really seeing that momentum that I'm sure was motivating you just from being a performance-based job and being rewarded, compensated
Yeah.
accordingly.
Yeah, and having those conversations and being around other people that have similar jobs, I would say that's very important as well. If you're hanging out with, if your social influence group is a bunch of other, again, I'm not passing judgment or criticism whatsoever, but if you're hanging out with other folks that are, paid a certain way and you're paid the same way, like your conversations and your way of thinking is going to be limited to that social sphere. Once you surround yourself with others who, get paid different ways, maybe it's commission, bonus, maybe they're an entrepreneur, a real estate investor, it will open your mind about different ways to get paid. And one of the biggest changes I would say, transitioning into this new role is it's incredible. When I transitioned into this role, I wrote down some goals on what I think I could accomplish. And I am not kidding. Like I blew those out of the water. And so my ability to think as far as like what I considered good or great was so diminished. I was placing such a limited value on what I thought I was capable of and literally exceeded those by 10 times. So it's very exciting to have those opportunities and just the daily challenge. And there are adversities and there are challenges, but sometimes I have to remind myself, would I rather be getting paid this way or doing this other job? No, I wouldn't. So let's get up, let's go, let's grind, and let's do our best and be our best.
Love it. I'll let you take on number 4.
Yeah, number 4 is forgive your parents. This is a really big one for me. For a long time, I had a lot of resentment towards my mom. And when you forgive your parents, it improves your mental health. It's going to allow for better decision making and really ultimately lead to a more peaceful life. When you're younger, my talking to my 20-year-old self, I felt like I was the victim. I felt like I was being treated unfairly, or maybe my siblings were getting preferential treatment, not realizing all of the adversity that my single mom had been through and all the sacrifices that she had made, and that she really was truly doing the very best that she could do. I'm getting a taste of that right now because guess what? I'm a single dad and I have teenagers, and oh my gosh, holy cow, teenagers. Like for anyone that has teenagers out there, like what I'm talking about. Like I don't care if there are two parents in the household or just one. It is not easy. It's an incredible effort. And so my advice to my 20-year-old self would be to forgive myself, take accountability for my actions and my role in the relationship. Also forgive my mom, just understanding that she was doing the very best that she could with what she had.
Yeah, I don't have necessarily resentment on my end, but the only thing I would add is just, I just think about who I was at the age of 20, and, how little level of appreciation I probably showed at times, or just
Yeah.
doing little acts of kindness, just as gestures, just to show my appreciation to both of my parents. I don't know. I just think, if I would have been able to talk to my 20-year-old self, just push it myself just to be a little bit more mindful of that. And, you know, kind of that phrase with a husband and wife, wife, happy life. I feel like there should be a version of that for like happy mom and dad, or, because there's a very similar, you know, basis behind that, which is just when everybody is communicating well with each other and just showing appreciation and working as a team, just how much more calm and productive and just better, that life is.
Yeah, and you've always done a great job with your parents, but looking back, I'm the same way. 20-year-olds, we can be selfish, we can be impatient, we think the world revolves around us, and pausing, reflecting, you know, being a little more gracious at times, experiencing gratitude, and just being verbal with that, I think is always a very positive thing as well.
Yeah. Well, before we go on to the second half of this episode, Ben, love for you just to share our sponsor of the day.
Yes, well, we have an incredible sponsor, and here we go. Do you need a real estate team that does more than just close deals? Adam Sells Denver provides expert guidance for buyers, sellers, and investors with personalized strategies tailored to your goals. From start to finish, we're your partners in success. Access free resources at adamsellsdenver.com or by calling 970-500-0252 to get started today.
Thank you. Definitely recommend reaching out to him. I've heard really good things, guys. So going into number 5, stay alive. Number 5, don't follow the crowd. And this one, I can picture myself at 20 years old being told this and just getting an attitude about even being told that, and then probably going and following the crowd even more. So people are very vulnerable, especially at the ages of, teenagers and into their early 20s. And I was no exception to that. So, just thinking back about, the social circles we were in at that age and how different and more polar opposites I feel like I am today to that man 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and let me see if I can bring up some statistics here, but it is so shocking. And this was one of the things where, you know, who is the crowd exactly is the question. Who is the crowd? So this is the crowd. The crowd, here's the crowd. 79% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck or have less than $2,000 saved in emergency fund. 43.4% of Americans, according to the CDC, are obese. 74% are considered overweight. According to the Federal Reserve, 40% of Americans couldn't even cover a $400 emergency expense. 85% of Americans are unhappy in one major area of their life, whether it's finances, career, or health. 32%, only 32% of Americans are actually engaged at their work. Now, when you hear, aren't these statistics alarming? 50% of marriages end in divorce, and even a higher percentage are unfulfilled in their marriage. That is the crowd. That is normal. So why would anyone ever want that for themselves or follow someone who is leading in that direction? And when I came across all of those statistics, it was just like a slap in the face. But yet we're so tempted to follow the crowd, through social media, through our consumption based, our consumption focused US economy, how we're marketed to. And so that would be my advice to me, is that you cannot follow the crowd. Even Dave Ramsey says, he's like, if I don't know what to do, or if I don't know what is the right decision, I just need to understand which way is the crowd going and go the opposite way.
I can't even imagine how much more challenging it is for 20-year-olds today compared to when we were 20, just with the presence of social media at this point and this, very challenging aspect where you see all these influencers on social media in the fancy car.
Yeah.
Parking in front of a fancy hotel and not knowing if that is legitimate or if they're actually completely broke on credit cards and just acting the role and not actually, being the person that they're trying to portray themselves as. And it's just so dangerous for 20-year-olds to be following crowds that potentially aren't even real. It's not even real life and not even reality. So I would just, for my 20-year-old self, just really, try and hit hard that point where, everybody has stuff that's going on behind the scenes, this aspect of social media that's a highlight reel of everybody's lives. That's not always the case, and just, picking your close circle of friends wisely and realizing that that really is going to have a dramatic part, a big role in who you become later on in life.
Yeah, if you want to have a remarkable life, have you ever heard the expression, it's lonely at the top?
Yep.
And the reason for that, the reason it's lonely at the top is because you have to be committed, you have to be disciplined, you have to be intentional, you have to be focused, you have to live every day with purpose. And if you're doing that, well, you're not following the crowd, and there probably aren't going to be a lot of others that are living the same way or can even relate to you. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't live that way. We are all called to become the purpose, the person that we're called to be, and stay on our path. And I really truly believe that. I know we're short on time here, so let's move on to number 6. Your greatest problems can be your greatest blessings. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, man. Challenges are opportunities in disguise and can help build that resilience that everybody needs more of. And that's just going to make you stronger in all areas of your life. You got to go through a lot of valleys to see the peaks. There's about a gazillion, catchphrases to this one, but just understanding that at the time it might suck. It might seem like the world is ending. Just get through that lull, that valley of despair, and fast forward whatever period of time it may be. It might be a day, it might be a month, might be a couple years, but at some point you're going to look back and see that as an opportunity for growth and just realize you're a better person because of whatever that struggle was.
Yeah, when I was in my 20s, I looked at my problems as just that, problems. I got angry if I didn't get the results that I wanted. I got annoyed, I got irritated, whether it was in class, going to school, you know, whatever. Now I look at problems and adversities in my life as an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to mature. I've also learned this from reading a lot of biographies. John D. Rockefeller, Jeff Bezos, Sam Walton. The reason that Sam Walton became the second greatest entrepreneur of the 20th century is because of the problems and the challenges that he was able to overcome. And so I think when we shift our mindset like that, where if I can think of, this is instead of thinking that this is a huge problem, think to yourself, this is a huge opportunity for me because I get the opportunity to overcome this challenge in my life. And when you can ultimately persevere over that problem, nothing's impossible.
Yeah, imagine just taking the word problem out of your vocabulary and replacing it with opportunity and just seeing what mental effect that would have on how you're looking at life and how you're reacting to whatever's coming at you at life.
Mm-hmm.
Let's
All
jump
right,
into
number
number 7.
7. Learn how to let go. This was a big one for me. Really learning how to let go, and I got better at this as I got older and really placed a higher value on my peace and my clarity. And sometimes it's difficult to let go, whether it's a habit or a relationship. But really taking an audit of your behaviors, of your habits, of the people in your life, and being intentional, identifying who is serving me, what habits are serving me, and what are not. I think when you're younger, you don't want to hurt people's feelings, and you're so focused on your friends and not wanting to ruffle feathers and disrespect someone. But that's not what you have to do here. I mean, if you truly believe that someone is not a good influence for you, or they're not adding value to your life, or maybe they're leading you down a wrong path, you don't need to make a proclamation that I'm cutting you out of my life and you're no longer going to be part of my life. That's kind of what I used to think. All you have to do is just stop putting energy and focus into those relationships or those things, and they will evaporate on their own with time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I've had friends that I've had to let go of, and I didn't call them and tell them like, I'm letting go of you. This is your notice that our friendship is ending. I just kind of stopped putting focus and energy into the relationship.
yep, I've had that same experience with people in my past. I would just add to, again, this one was learn how to let go. I would just add to that maybe a different spin on this is learn to say no, and just also understanding that it's okay to say no to things. You don't have to be a people pleaser, which is something I've been dealing with for a long time, just trying to overcome some of that. Just being a yes man, just understanding that it's okay to say no. And by doing that, you're also going to be letting go to some of these people that you're referring to, just by being brave enough, or at least just stuck on what you want out of your life to the point where you're willing to say no and make that clear to everybody.
Yeah, and having the confidence to say no. And that's one thing that Warren Buffett constantly talks about. You would think someone like him has been trained to say yes, but the reality is, he talks about at his seminars and his shareholder meetings, uh, a lot of times it's not saying yes, it's saying no, and then being very disciplined with what you actually say yes to. So just very, very powerful perspective there. As we're wrapping up, before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask our audience, what's one thing that you're doing today to improve yourself? Share that with us on Instagram at the Pursuit of Progress, and we might feature you in our next episode. We'd love to hear from you. And again, why we're here, why we're doing this is because we want to grow. We want to help you grow. We all want to pursue our progress.
All right, guys. Well, that brings us to the end of our discussion on the first 7 lessons from our latest episode here on the Pursuit of Progress podcast. We've explored how letting go of alcohol can boost your clarity and productivity, the importance of having a financial vision, and the power of performance-based work. So we've talked about all the benefits of forgiveness, the value of creating your own path, turning problems into blessings, and that art that we just talked about with letting go, willing to say no, and just getting rid of any negativity in your life. Each of these lessons on their own, as well as collectively, can really significantly enhance your journey towards success. So join us next week, as we wrap up part 2 of this 2-part series on conversations we would have with our 20-year-old selves. Ben?
7 down, 8 to go, and these next 8 are going to be just as good, if not better, than the first 7. So join us next week.
Have a great week, guys. Bye.